Hey guys, we're going to talk about synthetic division, okay? So, synthetic division is just a way to divide polynomials by a linear factor, okay? By a linear factor. So this is important, all right? Quick note. All right, now we're going to do problem 1a, and problem 1a says, find the remainder when x to the fifth minus 2x cubed plus x squared minus 4 is divided by x minus 1. Very quickly. If instead this had said x squared minus 1, I could not use synthetic division. You can only use synthetic division in linear factors, such as x minus 1, or x plus 5, or 3x minus 4, okay? Those kind of situations are the only time that you can use synthetic division. You cannot do it on a quadratic factor such as x squared minus 1. Okay? Now, moving on. Synthetic division is a way to divide polynomials that's really simple. Okay? First off, you look at what you're dividing by. In this case, I'm dividing by x minus 1. Okay? So, I'm dividing by x minus 1. So what I have to do is I have to look at x minus 1 and say, okay, what would be the 0 from x minus 1? Well, that would just be x equals 1, right? Because the 0 is when you take the thing and you set equal to 0 and you solve for x. So that'd be x equals 1. Okay? So x equaling 1, that's what I'm going to use to actually do my division. So I write a 1. Then I write an upside down division box. Okay? So I put the 1 here, I put the upside down division box. Now what you do is you look at what you want to divide. This guy right here is what I wanted to divide. Okay? You write down the coefficients from highest x power to lowest x power. So in other words, all the way down to the constant in order. So when I look at this, I say, okay, I have an x to the fifth. So that's my highest x power. So then the coefficient x to the fifth, coefficient on x to the fifth is 1. So I write 1. Then I would look for x to the fourth. I don't have an x to the fourth. Not a big deal. What would be the understood coefficient? 0. Okay, then you go down to x cubed. That's negative 2. Then you go down to x squared. That's 1. Then you go down to x. Oh, I don't have an x. Not a big deal. Put 0. Then you go down to a constant, which is negative 4. Okay, so now we've set up the synthetic division. To actually do the division part, first thing you do, and you will do the same thing every single time. You take the first number and you take it down. Okay? You don't do anything, you just drop it down. Next thing you do is multiply this number right here, the number you're dividing by, to the number that's right here. So 1 times 1, which is 1. Next thing you do is add these two together. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then you repeat that process again. 1 times 1 is 1. Add these two together. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Multiply these two together. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Add these two together. That's 0. 1 times 0 is 0. Add these two together. That's 0. 1 times 0 is 0. Negative 4 plus 0 is negative 4. Awesome. Okay, now, all these numbers right here mean something, all right? The very last number, every single time, the very last number is our remainder term, okay? So in other words, to answer this specific question, find the remainder is just negative 4. Like, we could finish this problem. We could just say, bam, the remainder is negative 4. That's my answer. Now, that's correct for this problem. You can just put negative 4. I have no problem with that. But I do want to tell you what all these numbers mean, okay? What these numbers mean is basically this polynomial divided by x minus 1, what would be left over? Well, this last thing is now your constant. So I did my remainder. This is your constant. Then this is the coefficient on x. This is the coefficient on x squared. This is the coefficient on x cubed. And this is the coefficient on x to the fourth. So in other words, okay, so I'd have a constant 0. Then I would have a 0x. Then I would have a negative 1x squared. So negative 1x squared. And I want to put a plus here. Okay. Then I would have positive x cubed, 1x cubed. And then I'd have a positive 1x to the fourth, and the x cubed was positive, so I put a plus sign, 1x to the fourth. So bam. This is not the remainder. This is actually the quotient, okay? But the remainder is just negative 4. So when you look at this, you can say, okay, the 0x plus 0 is unnecessary, and that's true, all right? So then this is really your quotient piece right there. All right, but again, the answer for this one would just be negative 4 because it just asks for the remainder. All right, let's do part B. Part B says it's the exact same thing, but instead of x minus 1, it does x plus 1. Now let me tell you some other information as I sit here and erase this. So just kind of listen to this information. You noticed last time I had a remainder of negative 4. If you get a remainder of 0, okay, what that means then, if you get a remainder of 0, is that this guy right here, what you're dividing by, is a linear factor of this polynomial. In other words, it could divide into it evenly. Okay, so you could also say then, if 1 had divided into it and got a remainder of 0, you could say that 1 is a 0 of this polynomial. So in other words, you could say, hey, it crosses the x-axis at 1, okay? You could also say that 1 is a root of that polynomial. But we did not get 0. So 1 is not a root. It's not a 0 of this polynomial. All right? So what about x plus 1? Well, I want to do it by synthetic division. So first thing I have to do is set x plus 1 equals 0. Okay? And then subtract 1, so I get x equals negative 1. Okay? So that's the number I'm going to divide by. So negative 1. Draw my upside down synthetic division box. Put my coefficients back in, which were 1, 0, negative 2, 1, 0, negative 4. Okay? So, now what I do is I carry down the first number, always. Carry it down. Multiply. That gives you negative 1. 0 plus negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. 2 plus negative 1, I'm sorry, negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. 1 plus 1, oh, sorry. 1 plus 1 is 2. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. All right. 0 plus negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times negative 2 is 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So remember, the last number is always your remainder. So to answer part B, sorry, this is part B now. To answer part B, you would say the remainder is just negative 2. So this is technically the answer for part B. But I want to take a moment to explain what each piece of this means. Remember, this last number right after the remainder, the next one, is always your constant. So my constant's negative 2. This next one is your coefficient on x, so 2x. And then you just kind of keep going up. Negative 1 is going to be the coefficient on your x squared, so negative 1x squared, and the 2x was positive, so I need to put a plus sign. All right. This guy's going to be the coefficient on negative x cubed, so it makes it negative 1x cubed. And I already have a minus sign going on here. And then this guy is going to be the coefficient on x to the fourth, so I can say 1x to the fourth. So basically, you just kind of keep increasing in power along the way. So this is your quotient, technically. Okay? All right, so now let's look at problem number 4. Okay, let's look at problem number 4, which says, hey, I want you to divide this guy, x squared plus 2x, sorry, I'm copying down, minus 8. No, let's do a harder one. I'll help you out on a harder one. Instead of doing number 4, let's do number 5, okay? So number 5 is x cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x minus 2. And it says divide it by x plus 2. So in other words, the number that I'm going to use to actually divide by is going to be a negative 2. Alright, so now I open up my box. I write down my coefficient. So what is the coefficient on x cubed? 1. What is the coefficient? So now I should find the coefficient on x squared, which is 5. Remember, we're going descending order on the powers. So then I look for just x, which is another 5. And then negative 2. So now what I do is I carry down the first number always. Alright, so now that's 1. Okay. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 5 plus negative 2 is 3. Negative 2 times 3 is 6. Negative 6, my apologies. which is a negative 1 when you add those two together. Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. Add those together and you get 0. So part A says identify the quotient and the remainder. So 0 is your remainder. That right there is your remainder. This is your quotient, but let's interpret this quotient before I write it as my quotient, okay? Remember, the last number is always your constant, so negative 1. This is then the next term forward is the coefficient on x, so 3x. That's positive, so I'm going to go ahead and put a plus sign. And then this would be the coefficient on just x squared, so 1x squared. So bam, this is really what I call your quotient, okay? So this is your quotient. I'm just going to call it Q. And this is your remainder. You get a remainder of 0. All right? So then it says, is x plus 4 a factor of this polynomial right here? Okay. I'm sorry, I said x plus 4. My apologies. Is x plus 2 a factor of this polynomial right here? Since you got a remainder of 0, you can say yes. All right? Since you got a remainder of 0, you can say yes. All right? And part C says, is negative 2 a root of this polynomial? Okay? It wants to know, is it a root? Since you got a remainder of 0, you can say yes. If you did not get a remainder of 0, the answer here would be no. Okay? So just be very, very clear on that. All right? Okay, guys, I am sorry that I have to run off to a meeting today. It's last minute. Please send me a remind with any questions you have, just in general if you're confused. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you finish that paper. I am picking it up as homework tomorrow. All right, have a good day.